Hi there, my name is Terrence Chastan-Davis and I work at the Rice Creek Watershed District. I'm going to talk about my job a little bit today, and then we're going to go into the field and take a look at a few different sites. My title is a district inspector or district technician / inspector at the Rice Creek Watershed District. This is my workspace. Typically when I'm at my workspace, I'll be working on inspection reports, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the future. Using different map applications to look at different things, talking on the phone, talking with people, giving people a call about an inspection report and going through some different things like that. You might notice that I'm wearing a mask. So our office is currently closed to the public, and anyone that's in the office, employee-wise, are required to wear a mask with our policy. So this is the map of our district, the Rice Creek Watershed District. As I mentioned before, I am the district inspector / technician. A lot of my job consists of doing construction inspections, making sure that sites are protecting the environment while doing their projects, and I'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into the field. But I just wanted to run through our district. This is a map of the district. You'll note that it's kind of a oddly shaped district. If you think of like a horseshoe, that's kind of the boundaries of our district. A little bit about how the drainage flows. You have White Bear Lake here, and basically the drainage kind of runs up, connects to Rice Creek or Clearwater Creek, Hardwood Creek, and then flow moves through the chain of lakes. Flow comes from up here, and then everything kind of connects at Rice Creek, and then eventually goes down into the Mississippi. So a little bit about a watershed. This is a watershed. Basically, a watershed is where you have all the water comes into the watershed and flows to one point, which could be a river, a lake, an ocean. So our watershed, as it works its way through with the different drainage systems and rivers and creeks, it all connects to the Mississippi, and then the Mississippi eventually goes down to the ocean. So that is a watershed. Basically, a watershed district where I work is we have this area, we protect this area, we have different rules and regulations or different things like that. We do monitoring, all in an effort to protect the environment while people are doing projects and different things are going on in the district. So this is one of my construction projects that I routinely inspect. You can see this project is pretty much done. It was a brand new apartment building that was built here. In order to help the environment, the project developers created underground structures to collect the water and infiltrate it into the ground. So that's what I'm going to show you today is this manhole structure. I'm going to open it up, and you'll be able to see kind of where the water goes when it rains. It goes into the storm sewers and then into this system here. So as you can see here, we have an underground infiltration basin. When it rains, the water goes into the storm sewer inlets, collects in this basin. You can see the little slits, the little holes at the bottom of the basin. So the water will collect in here and then infiltrate into the ground, basically getting filtered, collecting some of, you can see right here, there's already some built up debris and sediment. And this is one of the features that is put in place to help filter our waters, reduce flooding and things like that. So we're at an active construction site. You can see right here, we got water running into this pond. This water is being pulled from the ground. They're dewatering, they're pulling water from the ground so they can do their projects, keep things dry. They're pumping that water to this pond, and then this water is going to make its way through the pond and eventually go to the wetland. You can see the water is relatively clean. A lot of things that I look at on sites is making sure that that's not dirty water, turbid water, you like to say. But right now it's looking pretty clean, and then it does have to work its way through the pond before it eventually gets to the wetland. You can see I'm wearing safety glasses. That's a pretty common thing to do on a construction site. I'm also wearing steel-toe boots, making sure that we're staying safe while we're at these big projects, because there's a lot of things going on. We'll take a look at some of the activity that's going on further down the road there. But yeah, that's what we got going on here. You can see the hay that's been laid down. This is actually, we like to say, an erosion control measure. So after soils are disturbed, you want to make sure that they're getting stabilized as soon as possible. So what they do here is they lay down the hay as a method, and they typically put seed in there too, and that kind of stabilizes the soils. Hopefully we'll get some growth before the winter here, and then that will cut down on some of the potential erosion moving forward. As you can see, we've moved down this pond here. Further down there is where we were standing before, where the water was coming into the pond. As it's working its way through the pond, you can see it filters through this little rock berm here. You can see right now the water is relatively clean. I'm not seeing a lot of dirtiness into that water. So as that water works its way through the pond, it goes under this little culvert here, and then eventually goes to this outlet over here. And you see again the water relatively clean, filtering through the rock. There's actually some hay there that's probably not supposed to be there, but it's actually probably helping a little bit. So as it's working through the hay and the rock, you can see the water is entering the wetland. So what we have here is a wetland. Couple of facts about a wetland. Wetlands are protected habitats. They are places where different reptiles and birds and all kinds of different animals live. They are very important to Minnesota's natural resources. They act as flood control. They help filter water. They take in pollutants. So they have lots of great functions in the state of Minnesota. And we do all we can do to protect them. So right now the water that's going there is clean, which is great. We can also talk a little bit about these black fences that you see here. Typically this is a pretty common thing that you see at a construction site. So, similar things as black logs are called biologs. There's different terms for them. Basically what these are doing is they're protecting the natural resources from the project. You have your active construction project here, and then you have things that you're trying to protect and make sure that everything is being contained on this site. We refer to these as BMPs, which stands for Best Management Practice. Basically, BMPs are a method of a protecting thing that people use, contractors use to protect the environment while they're doing their projects. So, best management practices are used a lot, very common in construction sites. A silt fence, that's what this is. This is an example of a best management practice. Like I said, there's lots of different types of methods out there, but that's just one of them. So what we got here is a stormwater pond, and then this is actually an infiltration basin. I think I mentioned that at a different site, or I will be. So both are stormwater features that are used to kind of treat the water and filter it. You can see right now that this is still kind of all exposed soil, but I can tell that they're getting ready to stabilize it. So you might in the future see some more hay and different things put down on the soil to stabilize it, and then hopefully it starts to vegetate before we get into the winter months. So that's a little bit about some of these stormwater features. So you can see these little well points here. So basically that's drawing water from the ground. As we talked about at the other pond where the water was dewatering to, that water is being pulled from the ground and being pushed over there. The reason they're doing that is so that they can work in this area. This is going to be a road eventually. So they're drawing the groundwater so they can put their utilities in, do the different things they need to do. We're putting the different structures in right now. And eventually, if you can imagine, this will be a road for the development that's being done here. So that's a little bit about what's going on here. They're actively doing that stuff right now. I would assume that they should be done with this probably within the next week or so. Just based off of the speed that they're going right now, and then they'll move on to a different road within the development to do kind of the same thing. But that's kind of why they need to draw that water down, is to make sure that they're not working in a really wet environment. So I wanted to briefly touch base on what a watershed is again. I know I mentioned that in the office, but I wanted to kind of give a nice little example. So again, we have an infiltration basin here, relatively completed project, parking lot. If you think about the parking lot, where does that water go when it rains? So think about it's raining. That water is going into the structure here. That water is going to flow through here, work its way through. and then end up here. So you can see the water is actually flowing a little bit right now. Probably not for me pouring my water, but when it rains, the water goes into that structure, then it comes into this basin where it's then filtered through the ground, through the infiltration basin. And that's kind of a good example if you think about what a watershed is. So the parking lot has its watershed of this basin. This isn't the only basin that's a part of this parking lot, but this is just kind of an example to show how the water comes in when it rains, goes into here, gets filtered, gets cleaned, and infiltrates into the ground. So again, this is another completed project mostly. You can see that we have a stormwater pond here again, even have a duck in there right now. But I just want to talk about the wetland buffer. So you see a sign here. A lot of times when projects are really close to the wetlands, they have to put in these buffers, which is basically a zone between where the wetland is and where the development is. And that's basically, as I mentioned before, a BMP. It's another kind of form of BMP, best management practice, where they need to have that zone to help filter the water before it goes into our natural resources, our wetlands and things like the rivers, lakes, and things like that. So this is an example of a wetland buffer sign. You can see kind of the vegetated buffer that goes around the pond. The wetland is actually further back over there, but I just wanted to kind of show this good example of utilizing a wetland buffer for a project. So this is just another part of that project that we're at today, one of the projects. Behind me here is a lake that was a man-made lake that was created to kind of take in the floodplain that was filled for the project. That's getting into the nitty-gritty a little bit, but just wanted to explain what's behind me here. You could maybe even see there's a few cranes in the way background there. So as I was talking about before with wetlands, you can see how much they are a habitat to other animals and creatures and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of show that. So a couple of things about what I love most about my job. I love to be outside. I'm not always outside, like you saw, I was in the office a little bit, but I really enjoy being outside, seeing projects, getting to enjoy nature a little bit. Also enjoy seeing projects come to an end. So this was another big development. As you can maybe imagine, it's all done now. You got the apartment all done. You got your stormwater features and things like that. So it's also nice to see these things come to an end and make sure that they work out. And while they're doing it, making sure that the environment is protected. A couple of things that I might do to change in the future or make things even better is I think just working with contractors and landowners and different groups and further educating people about some of the things that I do and helping them to protect the environment while they're doing their projects. I think that's a really important aspect. Sometimes people don't fully understand everything that we're conveying to them, so I think working with them and helping them learn about BMPs, like I mentioned before, is a big thing that I'd like to continue moving forward. And then how did I get here? So you're probably wondering, how did I end up in this career path or this job? I graduated high school, got my diploma, and then I went on to the University of Minnesota Morris, where I got a degree in environmental studies and a minor in sociology. So that's kind of a little bit about my background, and then I really attribute it to also just experiencing new things, doing different programs, learning about different things, what you might like, what you might not like. I think that can go really far and helping to get to a career path that you might enjoy. So I want to say thank you again for watching my video. I hope you learned a little bit, enjoyed some of the action shots that we provided. Thanks again to Beth Carino for helping me get involved with this program, and I hope you guys are enjoying the rest of the Children's Water Festival, and hopefully we'll see you down the road.